Testing. Oh.
Sidetracked. There's stuff.
Where's Brian? Nick? Melissa? Billy's lollygagging over there.
Putting my glass water bottle to the side for
Okay.
safety. Hi.
Well done. Yeah.
I think you guys can move in a little, make it look like.
Yes, can you move in? Because it's Earth Day. We like each other.
Yeah, we actually like each other, right?
I love the green, Julie. That's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to open up the live feed. Where is Maureen? Oh, it's open. Okay, we're up and running. So thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and happy Earth Week 2026. My name is Adrienne Esposito, Executive Director of Citizens Campaign for the Environment. We thank you all for joining us. For the many people who have joined the live feed, if the reporters have any questions, please put them in the chat, and we are monitoring that, and we will get to them at the end of the press event. So thank you again for joining us. Today's press conference is about finally some good news for planet Earth. Many of you know that right now there are oil tankers and LNG tankers sitting, waiting in the Straits of Hormuz. And as they sit there and wait, energy costs are going up. Home electricity, home heating, gasoline, the cost of food, goods, and services all going up because of geopolitical circumstances, but not offshore wind. Offshore wind is standing off of the South Shore of Ireland like gentle giants, turning and producing clean, safe, renewable energy. And so as we battle continuously to protect our Earth, there is good news this year. When offshore wind was first proposed, we made, everybody here, 4 promises to the public. One is that offshore wind would produce clean, safe, non-polluting power to Long Island and New York. 2 is that offshore wind would be cost competitive and stabilize the rate base. 3, offshore wind would create good paying jobs for Long Islanders and New Yorkers. And 4, offshore wind would be consistent and a reliable source of offshore wind. Well, promises made, promises kept. All those have been achieved. The science is in, the data is in, and now we know offshore wind delivers for us on all 4 of those categories. And we have assembled people who know, the experts, who can tell you about the facts, the science, and the data that has come in over the last 14, 15 months that the South Fork Wind Farm has been in operation. We're delighted to start today with Carrie Gallegher, the CEO of LIPA. Carrie.
Thank you. All right. Let's see if technology works for me here this morning. Yes. All right. So good morning, everyone. It is truly a pleasure to be here this morning as we kick off Earth Week, because as the head of the first utility in the country to build a commercial offshore wind farm, I can tell you, wind works. So we are, it's a meaningful moment today for LIPA. We're marking another year of strong performance for South Fork Wind. And it's also an important milestone for Long Island. So this is a great opportunity to reflect on what this project represents and what it took to get here. I think people forget South Fork Wind began with a very practical need. Long Island needed additional power supply for the East End. Right. And so back in 2015, LIPA launched a competitive process to address that need. And what followed was years, right? We're here in 2026, when commercially viable 2024, right? Years of planning, permitting, engineering, construction, and coordination involving many people across many organizations before the project reached full commercial operation in July of 2024. So that's really an important message to underscore here today. Projects of this scale do not happen overnight, and they do not happen because of any one person or any one institution. They happen because a great many people, many of them here today, right, stay committed to the work over a long period of time. So as Adrienne mentioned, today South Fork Wind is operating as part of Long Island's power supply mix. It is a 132 megawatt project located approximately 35 miles east of Montauk Point, and it is recognized as the first in the nation, but not the last in the nation, right, commercial off-scale wind farm. So, commercial scale offshore, yes. And so as Long Islanders, of course, we are proud that it was first. But what matters most is that it is now an operating asset, a true asset, serving Long Islanders. Our public reporting shows that South Fork Wind has been generating consistently and contributing meaningfully to our system. In 2025, it achieved close to a 50% capacity factor. So in the generation world, that's actually really good. It generated power on 99% of days and during 90% of all hours, and I'm glad to see that we, yes, have a graphic up there about that. And it performed especially well during the winter months when energy demand still remains significant. And in the Northeast, it's especially important because our fuel supplies can be more constrained in the winter. And that was certainly the case this year in the Northeast during Winter Storms Fern and Hernando. And we were very lucky to have South Fork Wind operating during that period. This performance data matters because at LIPA, we're focused on outcomes, right? Our responsibility is to make sure the system it's reliable, first of all, affordable, and increasingly clean. So we look carefully at how projects actually perform, how they support the grid, and how they fit into the broader mix of resources, not just one, but a whole mix of resources to help keep our electric grid resilient and reliant and meet the needs of our customers every day. So just to emphasize, South Fork Wind is part of a larger picture. It's an important part of our balanced and resilient electric system. It plays an important part in Long Island's energy future. South Fork Wind, offshore wind will all be playing an important part in Long Island's energy future, in New York State's energy future, hopefully in our country's energy future. So as we stand here today, it's fair to say it's doing what it was built to do. It's delivering power to our communities. So that accomplishment would not have been possible without the hard work of many extraordinary people. It required exceptional effort from union labor, from engineers, from technicians, from vessel crews, from planners, from suppliers, from regulators. I should know, I used to be one of them. From public officials, from community partners. It supported substantial union labor, and it helped open new workforce pathways in the emerging field of clean energy. I'm still allowed to say that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, which should not be overlooked. So the growth of this industry has helped support workforce development here on Long Island, including training opportunities through the National Offshore Wind Training Center at Suffolk County Community College. So building energy infrastructure, this is really important to emphasize, right? I know other folks are going to talk about it. It's not only about steel in the water or cables in the ground, it's also about the people and the skills development and the long-term capabilities that go along with it. So today, as we celebrate, and this is a celebration, the ongoing performance of this important asset, I am filled with appreciation, right? Appreciation for the many people who believed in South Fork Wind and helped to take it from concept to reality. Appreciation for the discipline, the determination, and persistence that a project like this requires, and appreciation for the fact that Long Island now has another important resource contributing to the reliability of our electric system, because the reliability of our electric system, frankly, is what keeps me up at night. And to everyone who helped play a part in making that happen, thank you. I know that's everyone in this room. And to all of you here today celebrating this milestone, thank you so much, and thank you for having me here today.
Thank you very much, Carrie. So just to emphasize, I think we all take it for granted because we've been hearing about offshore wind for years. But we here on Long Island have the first ever utility scale offshore wind farm in America. Woo! That is a landmark occasion. And now, all over the nation, they can use this data to talk about how other wind farms will perform throughout America, and this is the first in history. So let's hear from Billy Haugland, the CEO of Haugland Corporation, about what their role was and participation in helping to get this built. Billy.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our headquarters here, and thank you all for being here today. As we recognize Earth Week, today is really about progress, the kind that's tangible and local, like us. The South Fork Wind Project is a strong example of what it looks like when it's done right. This wasn't just about adding renewable energy to the grid, although we did, and we're very happy to celebrate that today. It was about building it here, with strong local companies like ours, an even stronger local union workforce, and local supply chains. We were intentional about that. Everybody up here was intentional about that. And the result is real economic activity across Long Island. Jobs, investment, and capability that stays here. At the same time, this project did support our energy mix during a winter when reliability and affordability mattered most, especially with global uncertainty in the background. And at a time when so many industries are being reshaped by technology, projects like this and the others that are following represent a generational opportunity for skilled local union workforce, strong, stable careers tied directly to building real infrastructure. To us, that's what progress looks like. Alignment. Alignment that turns plans into projects and projects into real outcomes, while advancing productive and efficient environmental stewardship along the way. And we're very proud of our role that we played in this project. It's a model we need more of, and thank you.
Great, thank you, sir. So you heard that we have 99% of the days offshore wind was producing power. It's creating local jobs. Next speaker will be Nick Gauriglia, who is the advocacy manager for New York Offshore Wind Alliance, and they know a lot about wind.
How's everybody doing? One, I want to thank Billy for hosting us. It's a great facility, great headquarters. I want to quickly talk about what a trait of a good friend is. They're reliable. They're honest. You get along with them. They solve your problems. They're good when times are bad, and they're there for you all the time. And of course, they recognize your, attributes with gifts. Offshore wind, the industry, it's a really good friend. Let's be clear, South Fork Wind has been a really good friend for Long Island. South Fork Wind has been reliable. 46% capacity factor in 2025. 51.6% capacity factor in January of 2026. Producing energy 99% of the days in 2025. South Fork Wind and Long Island, they get along well. South Fork Wind helps power the East End, solving a problem that LIPA very clearly pointed out. And then LIPA, of course, is always a good friend, always promoting South Fork Wind and the winds. I do have to say, though, South Fork Wind's been there for the bad times, too. 2026 capacity factor had reached 80% on certain days during the cold snap, when fossil fuels were most expensive. South Fork Wind was just chugging away, flat, stable rate. They showed up when energy was spiking, and they showed up during the June 2025 heat wave. On June 24th, it was hot, if you guys remember. And during the hours of 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., 87.4% capacity factor from South Fork Wind, helping stabilize the grid. Finally, South Fork Wind recognizes a good friendship with gifts. 1,000+ union jobs. 1.5 million American union labor hours. They like to use local businesses. Haugland's one of them. But let's not forget Roman Stone right here on Long Island also. And I think the town of East Hampton likes South Fork Wind. $28 million to help dredge the Montauk Inlet when it was desperately needed, helping fisheries, which is a lifeblood of Long Island. We need more friends. Lots of them. So South Fork Wind, Long Island, New York, let's keep it going.
Thank you, Nick. And listen, I want to make one more point about cost. Over the winter, when natural gas spiked, oil spiked, did wind spike? No. Because offshore wind is a stable, consistent cost for 20 years. And in fact, according to LIPA, the cost of offshore wind this January and February was less, considerably less, than natural gas and oil, stabilizing our electric costs. That is a friend indeed. But let's talk about the environment. What kind of environmental benefits could non-polluting, renewable energy bring to us here on Long Island? We have two excellent speakers about the environment. Julie Tighe, president of the League of Conservation Voters here in New York. Julie?
Thank you, Adrienne. It's always so nice to be here. Thank you, Billy, for hosting us here in your great facility. I'm Julie Tighe. I'm president of the New York League of Conservation Voters. And, for us, every day is Earth Day. I wear a lot of green. I'm glad to see a lot of people with their green. But it's really exciting to be starting Earth Week, together as a time to reflect not just on the challenges we're facing, but on the solutions that are already working for New Yorkers. Because we know that offshore wind is no longer a future promise. It's here and it's delivering. As we've heard already, it didn't just happen. We're standing here together celebrating the success of South Fork Wind because we have strong leadership in Albany, right? Governor Hochul has firmly stood behind offshore wind. We're really grateful of the governor's support for this industry, for her strong defense of this project and others like it when last year there were some attacks on the industry that continue, that maybe will go away, because you would think in the middle of an energy crisis we wouldn't stop projects that are in the middle of getting up and constructed. And for her commitment to building a cleaner, more reliable system. And something that every New Yorker understand, as we've already heard a little bit about, is that the cost of energy is too high, and more importantly, as we're really realizing right now, it is too unpredictable. It's not getting easier for families, not as long as we're on this roller coaster ride with fossil fuels. Because the 35 miles off of Long Island, we've seen that promise of offshore wind with clean, stable energy, predictable costs, reduced exposure to price spikes, whether from global temperatures or from global markets. Like we saw that when the thermostat dropped, everywhere else prices jumped, and it did not jump here. It stayed stable. We saw the same thing during the heat wave. We already heard about that. South Fork Wind helped keep the lights on. Right? That's something we all really care about. Offshore wind is the solution to the roller coaster ride we've been riding on for too long. We've heard this, global conflict, contested shipping lanes. Who even knew what the Strait of Hormuz was before 2 months ago? Now we're all saying it like it's like next door. These oil cartels. And we're spending more than $44 billion a year in New York on fossil fuels that's going right out of state, right? That is not what domestic energy security looks like. We also need energy that allows for cleaner air and healthier communities, and that is exactly what offshore wind provides. There's no harmful pollutants like nitrogen oxide, sulfur dioxide, or fine particulate matter that contributes to asthma, heart disease, and other health problems. In fact, South Fork winds mean avoiding 6 million tons of carbon dioxide over 25 years. It's like we're eliminating 60,000 cars from the road. That is a real meaningful difference for how people breathe, for how many days your kid has to go to the hospital instead of going to school, right? When you're missing work, or when you're too sick to be able to manage your life. So we need to make sure that we're doing this because offshore wind is helping to protect public health. It's also working beneath the surface of the water. Turbine foundations are acting as artificial reefs, creating new habitat for marine life. It's the newest seafood buffet. We have species like black sea bass, lobster, and flounder already gathering around these structures, strengthening local ecosystems, supporting our fishing economy, which we already knows is the lifeblood of Long Island. So when we're talking about offshore wind, we're not just talking about clean energy, we're talking about jobs that I know Ryan is going to talk about. We're talking about cleaner air and better health. We're talking about affordable, reliable, and stable energy. These benefits are hugely important for all of our communities because at the end of the day, everyone wants energy they can rely on. Everyone wants bills that they can afford. Everyone wants a healthier environment for our families. South Fork Wind is helping deliver on that. Let's keep building on that progress so that we can get more of this for more of our state and our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Our next expert on the environmental benefits of offshore wind is Melissa Parrot, who's the Executive Director of Renewable Energy Long Island. They have a lot of members out on the East End. What do they think about it, Melissa?
Thank you. Well, I was going to say this is a very proud moment for Renewable Energy Long Island because we are powering Long Island homes with renewable energy. So we are very proud to be here. Our former executive director was very instrumental in the creation of and being part of that process of South Fork. So America's first offshore wind farm is up. It's running and it's delivering. And today we have the data to prove it. South Fork Wind is not a promise. It is a reality, powering 70,000 Long Island homes right now. Every megawatt from South Fork Wind displaces dirty fossil fuel generation. That means less CO2, less particulate matter, less soot in our lungs and air. This is not just environmental health, it is also significant to human health, as Julie had mentioned. The American Lung Association gave Suffolk County an F for air quality over many years, the worst grade in all of New York State. Not 1 year, but for over a decade did they determine this. Cleaner air is not abstract. It means fewer asthma attacks. It means kids playing outside without concern. It means less ER visits, as was mentioned. And South Fork Wind is part of changing that story. The past winter was brutal, as we all know, some of the coldest days we've experienced for years. The temperatures dropped and demand surged. Long Island needed power, and it needed it at peak. So what did grid operators unfortunately have to turn to? Number 6, residual fuel oil. I just learned about number 6. It's pretty dire, unfortunately. It's one of the dirtiest, most sulfur-laden fuels on the planet. It's the fuel of last resort. Number 6 oil is so thick, so heavy, so vicious that it has to be heated just to pump it through the pipes. You can smell it, you can see the soot, and that is what we were burning to keep Long Island warm, and it doesn't have to be that way. South Fork Wind and future offshore wind projects run in the cold. They run when demand spikes. Fossil fuel prices spike when you need them most. Offshore wind prices never move. That stability is just good, not just good energy policy, it is good economic policy. Because the price of South Fork Wind energy is locked in at a stable rate for 20 years, with no fuel costs, an Aurora Energy Research study found offshore wind generation could have saved New York ratepayers about $77 million this winter. That's big. The critics said offshore wind wouldn't work. They said it wouldn't be reliable. They said it was cost too much. South Fork Wind is outperforming its own projections. It delivered consistent, clean power this entire winter. And it saved Long Island ratepayers money doing it. This is grid reliability. This is energy cost stability. And this is what the critics said we couldn't do. And we are doing it. South Fork Wind is America's first. It will not be the last. And we are here to make sure of that. Today we stand here with real data, real results, and real health benefits for real Long Islanders and New Yorkers. Promises made, promises kept. Now let's keep it going.
And there's more promises made and promises kept. Because critics told us the jobs would not come from Long Island. They would come from out of the country. And that these companies that were building offshore wind would bring in people from foreign nations. Wrong. Ryan Stanton, the executive director of the Long Island Federation of Labor, is going to tell us about jobs created in the offshore wind industry and for South Fork Wind Farm. Ryan?
Some of you may have noticed I was on my phone, and I wasn't intentionally being rude. I guess I was objectively being rude. I got the question, what are you going to say today? What are you going to say? And Adrienne said I'm going to talk about jobs, so I'm going to try to talk about jobs. But I can't help but reflect on some of the things that were said. But before I do that, and we would not be here today, but for Roger Clayman, Kathy Burke-Gonzalez, Kate Rogers, and a handful of others that, are not up here with us. So a round of applause for them. And I'm a bit of a storyteller, and that doesn't play well for the press, so I'm sorry, I'll just be too long. Carrie mentioned that South Fork Wind was meant to meet a practical need, and I don't know what's more practical than keeping the lights on. And so it was touched on, but it's worth repeating. Last summer when things got really hot, we had commercial facilities that had to moderate the amount of power they were using, and the state seriously had to weigh in, and we were fine. And we had a cold snap this winter, and I don't know, those of you may remember about 2 years ago, National Grid had to send out a notification that the network was being strained. And again, we didn't actually meet devastating levels, but we did have to notify ratepayers and customers, and we had to be conscious of the energy we were using. And so South Fork Wind was the result of a competitive solicitation, right? And Long Islanders care about costs. We care about the environment. We care about costs. And for good reason. It's very expensive to live here. And so we need to know that we're getting the best value. And LIPA delivers the best value. They execute a competitive solicitation, and South Fork Wind wins competing against all other technologies. The solicitation was technology agnostic. And so if anybody's paying attention, and it's hard because there's a lot of money in politics and there's a lot of money put into the media, the evidence supports that offshore wind is delivering for us. You don't have to take our word for it, although a lot of us make a living making sure that you have good information to consider. So again, I don't know what's more practical than keeping the lights on. And a 50% capacity factor, for anybody listening at home, it just means it works, and it works really well. I mean, offshore wind is delivering at the same capacity factor as traditional generation on Long Island. That's happening right now. That's what that number means. So we don't have to pit traditional generation against fossil fuels, against offshore wind. What we have to do is focus on the fact that it's Earth Week, and we have an opportunity to build technology that is delivering for Long Islanders. And we can be technology agnostic, and we can lean into the fact that offshore wind is delivering. And the workers who have worked in generation can continue to work in generation. We have local contractors like the Haugland Group, National Grid, PSEG, all of whom have leaned into the fact that we need to build our way out of our impending energy doom, right? Practical need, I keep saying it, but for those at home, when you flip the switch, your lights turn on. When you turn up your thermostat, your homes heat up. That's happening because of the folks behind me and the folks out in the field, and we get to take it for granted. And we shouldn't, because it's really hard to make that happen for 3 million people, and there's a lot of experts and a lot of money making that possible and making that happen. And so, jobs, right? A lot of the jobs that exist today, they're going to exist tomorrow. We're going to build, and we're going to build new things. And so I'll close with a story. Saturday was my birthday, and Thank you. And I had what I imagine is the quintessential weekend for any Long Island dad who's family-oriented. Friday night was pizza night. Saturday I got up, I worked out, my wife hung out with our kids. I played a round of golf with my father-in-law at a public golf course that's totally reasonably priced. Conditions could be a little better, but I'll talk to the town. And then I spent 2 hours napping with my daughter on my chest, on my couch. Across the living room on my other couch was my 5-year-old passed out. And I made the colossal mistake of letting 2 young children sleep way too long in the middle of the day on a weekend. And so we rolled the dice and we went out to dinner, and we went to Butero's Family Style Italian, totally standard for Long Island, but delicious. My kids behaved. And I went home and I woke up and I coached soccer on Sunday. Like, script me a weekend with my family, like that's it. And I could afford to go out to dinner. And I have a good union job. And I have the ability to show up and coach my kids' soccer team on Sunday morning because I'm not working a second job. You know, we're dual income. My wife was a union nurse and is now a nurse practitioner. All of that's possible because of the union movement, because of responsible decision making, because I have opportunity here on Long Island that makes that possible. And if we don't continue to make responsible choices with our energy mix, those opportunities are slowly going to go away. Affordability is slowly going to go up. And it was said offshore wind is guaranteed pricing for 20 years. If you guarantee grocery prices for 20 years, I promise you that county executive, that congressman, that president, that person is trouncing their opponent. And so offshore wind is delivering that, and they're delivering it now. So don't take my word for it. Go look it up. Listen to these folks. Appreciate you listening. Thank you.
So, you know, the question remains. New York is actually projected to increase our energy demand by 61% over the next 25 years. How will we meet that demand? Are we going to meet that demand with reliable, clean, safe, renewable power? Or are we going to continue our addiction to fossil fuel, 50% of which still comes from foreign nations, many of which don't like us? We have a choice in front of us. This data should help us make that decision. And our last speaker, Esther Rosario, who's the executive director of Climate Jobs New York, has a lot to say and a lot of information about why we should make the right choice. Esther?
All right. Well, with that introduction, I feel like a little bit of pressure now. But everybody else took everything I was going to say, so we're going to just come up with something here. I'm Esther Rosario. I'm the executive director of Climate Jobs New York, which represents 2.6 million working people across this state. We are a labor-led coalition that is dedicated to making sure that we're building out a future that works for working people, full stop. Obviously, we're here today to prove that this stuff works, but we already knew that, right? This technology is not new. We've taken delegation trips to Denmark, where they're paying people for their energy, which should be the goal. Imagine, not getting a bill every year, but getting a check from the utilities. That would be incredible. And also just here to say that this does work. Like, there's a lot of misinformation in a time when, this really should be about keeping the lights on, as Ryan Stanton pointed out. I want everybody to be able to turn on their lights. It shouldn't be, a political talking point for folks. And this stuff works, right? And the future that we're trying to build is one that we can address the affordability crisis in a more holistic way. You often hear politicians get up and say, the bills are too damn high and the wages are too damn low. And this does address both, right? It's working. So I'm grateful that, the last time we were all kind of standing here, we were in a different place during Earth Day, Earth Week. We were, combating stop work orders on something that we knew worked. Now we're here saying that it works again. So again, I implore you all to read the facts. ground yourself in the reality that we need to keep the lights on by any means necessary. And this is a tool that has helped keep bills down and the lights on for decades in other countries. And we're finally bringing it here. This is the start of many wonderful things. I feel like this is a bit of a full circle moment for me. I think Ryan Stanton and I had the pleasure of seeing the turbines in Denmark before they came to South Fork, before they were, powering all of these homes. And now we get to see all of this actually working for working people, and we got to keep it going. So that's all from me, and continue to do all of the things that you do. We are, again, celebrating today the real results for working people, tangible, local results for working people in New York and on Long Island specifically. And we got to keep it going, keep shovels in the ground.
So here's the bottom line. When we first entered into working to do offshore wind, there was a lot of misinformation, disinformation, and myths circling about. The naysayers said, they won't work in the winter. False. They said, they're going to cost more than oil and natural gas. False. They said, they're going to spill oil. I don't even know where that one comes from. False. You know what spills oil? Oil industry. They spill oil. According to Google, actually, thousands and thousands of gallons during the regular costs of oil manufacturing and oil exploration in America. Thousands of gallons are spilled each year into our oceans, just from regular operations, tankers, little leaks here, little leaks there. You know what doesn't spill oil? Offshore wind. So, also the myths and there wouldn't be great jobs. Well, we just heard they were great jobs. Electricians, dock workers, iron workers, plumbers, construction trades, men and women who live in our communities, live in our neighborhoods, went to work and got paid a decent wage with health care. So as we move into the next decade, we have a decision to make. We have a growing energy demand. We have to meet that energy demand. Offshore wind is doing that cleanly, safely, economically, stabilizing rate costs, and is reliable. Let's work together. Let's do what's right for America, what's right for the earth, and what's right for our local and statewide economy. Let's continue to support and build offshore wind farms. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Any questions? Yes.
I think this is for Billy, but whoever wants to answer.
Bathrooms are over there.
Come up here.
As an outsider, it would seem to me that this is a very volatile industry to be in between the federal back and forth over what we can and cannot do, and even the state level, I'll call it drama. How does that impact your day-to-day, and how do you navigate so much uncertainty?
It's a great question. It's a very applicable question. It's obviously a conversation that we constantly are having around these hallways. And just from a level set as well, the majority of the work that the Haugland Group performed on these projects was transmission-related infrastructure, land-based transmission-related infrastructure. That's not to say we don't have over 100 qualified union FTEs from all the different trades that are out in the ocean right now on a subsequent project we'll be celebrating next Earth Day, Sunrise Wind. Okay, and the same was true for South Fork at the time. But our core workforce, our core partnership with the unions is agnostic to the generation piece. To take it a little further to I think your point, how are you picking a horse to ride right now? It's challenging. When you have stroke of a pen legislation that can completely upheave a trajectory that we were on, it's very challenging. And at a time like this right now, I know we are calling for, alongside everybody that's standing up here, quite frankly, and our union partners, for courage and leadership out of our elected officials. Let's set a path and chart a course that encompasses an all-the-above approach. Every single different piece of the energy mix has an applicable and efficient utilization and use case. We have to all work together right now tirelessly to get that to all fit into the right pieces here toward our energy future.
Yeah, and if I could just add that, I think there's a real opportunity for local leaders to play a role. You know, at the end of the day, answering the question more broadly about technology and energy generation, period, Suffolk County and Nassau County couldn't be more different. You know, we have a commercial scale offshore wind farm scheduled to be operational next year because we had local leaders like now County Executive Ed Romaine and Supervisor Dan Panico in their previous roles as supervisor and councilman. They worked with the community. Communication was key. And it wasn't just the folks behind me. It wasn't just the union movement. It was local elected officials who had the courage and the conviction to be responsible to the ratepayer and the taxpayer. And so when you have local leaders that are willing to step up, you recognize that it cuts across party lines. Congressman Andrew Garbarino, Congressman Nick LaLota, Governor Kathy Hochul, they all hail from different parties, and they have all applauded offshore wind and its ability to deliver for ratepayers and taxpayers, and I think that can't be overstated.
Great, good. And you know what? If we're going to go there, let's go there. You know, we don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, right wing, left wing, chicken wing. We don't care. Okay, the facts have to matter, the science has to matter, the reality has to matter. Our elected officials need to stand up and support offshore wind. The latest offshore wind poll that was taken in 13 different states across America show that over 74% of the public is supporting offshore wind. And with the biggest change in Republican demographics, a 31 point increase in Republicans supporting offshore wind. The message is getting out there. This is good for America. This is good for our health. It is good for our economy. It is good for us. And that we need elected officials here on Long Island to take this information, this science, this data, and carry forth that message and stop pandering to the very small anti-wind movement that is based out of fossil fuel rhetoric, trying to get their last gasp of air, staying in the business. There is room for a new technology. It's here, it should stay, and it should have support from elected officials. Any other questions? Ed, you got any questions? Okay. All right, thank you again. We're going to close this out. We appreciate your time. Thank you, everyone. No, but we should stay for photos.